Hey, welcome back to Wolf Den Hobbies. In today's video, I'm going to teach you how to step up your black color scheme painting game with two techniques. So easy, it'll make you want to scream. So we have our ghost face primed in black. We're going to come in with some Payne's Gray and we're going to base coat the whole model. By doing this, it's going to lay the foundation for our highlights later. This ink is actually phenomenal. It has good transparency. It's like a blue black. It's great. It's one of my favorite in pretty much my whole collection. So while we're spraying this whole thing down, laying our base coat, I have this video set up in two different ways. The first section is going to be airbrushing. The second section is going to be dry brushing. It's two different techniques, two different styles. With that being said, I'm also using two different color palettes too. So with the airbrush, it's going to be more of a blue scale. With the dry brushing, it's going to be more grays. I just figured in my mind that, hey, if we're showing two different techniques, we should use two different colors to show, the different contrasts, whatever. You can honestly use any color you want for this. From what I gathered, pastel colors work great when you mix them with black. You then tint the black to make it, kind of resemble the color that you chose. So you can implement this in any fashion for any color scheme, for any robe, whatever you choose. Now, depending on how you do it, whether you use dry brushing, glazing, or whatever technique that's out there, will give you different results for different fabrics, for different armor. Keep that in mind. But it's all relatively the same. With this, we're coming in with some Wolf's Gray, which is going to lighten the Payne's Gray to more of a brighter gray, blue-gray color. And that's how we're going to do our highlights. For me, I chose to do the highlights as if the light source was coming straight down on them. You can do your highlights any which way you want. And I will be taking these highlights a little extreme. You don't have to take them as far as I did. It's completely up to you. It's your model. So we're going to go for another round of highlighting. And this is kind of where we're at. But let's take it a step further. Add some more Wolf's Gray in. Mix it in, doing the backflow technique. Off to the side, I'm showing you kind of a gradient from the Payne's Gray and how we're working down. As the paint dries on the paper, you'll see the gradient shift. I chose bluish toned colors to kind of create like a blue lit night. I don't know why. It's just a color I picked, honestly. So it came out pretty blue toned, but that's okay. For our final highlight, we're mixing in some white ink, and we're just going to hit very, very minimum, like high parts on him, and that's about it, just to kind of give that high highlight. Using the airbrush to dry it off, make sure it's nice and dry. And then we're going to come in and we're going to basically go back over it. We're going to put some Payne's Gray back in the pot, backflow it, make sure our flow's good, and we're going to spray the whole model all over again. And like I said earlier, the transparency of this Payne's Gray is phenomenal. It's going to marry all these colors all the way down to the shadows, and it's all going to uniform together. It's just kind of blue. But with the transparency of the ink, the blending works really well. Okay, so now let's jump into our second ghost face. And what we're going to do here is the same thing. With transparent black, we're going to be laying down the foundation, yet again, all over the model. And we're using transparent black because I got these pro acrylic paints and I haven't really had a chance to use them yet, so I'm also experimenting with some of them periodically through the videos. And what would be better than some transparent black over a black base coat? Just to kind of get it in there. Okay, we're about to dive into the second technique, which is dry brushing. And dry brushing is basically where you take a brush, you put a little bit of paint on it, and then you take that brush on like a napkin or a piece of cardboard or something, and you take most of the paint off of it, leaving a little bit of pigment behind. And then you take that brush with a little bit of pigment and you run it across your model, and that leaves a dry pigment over it. And we'll be doing that to build up our highlights on the second ghost face. Now, I'm not going to bore you with me talking through the whole thing because all the highlights for this section are done exactly the same. So instead, I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of eerie music while you watch the dry brushing process. Okay, so we have the robes done. Now, here's a little bonus treat I threw in there. No tricks, just treats, I promise. Robes done. Now we have to finish this model. We can't just leave it with nice looking robes and no other color. I guess you could. It's up to you. It's your model. But we're going to come in, we're going to use paint that we already have, that we've already used, to build up to the final mask color that we want, which it's white, but we're not going to paint it white. We're going to paint it gray to look white, which is crazy. But a lot of the nice white colors aren't used with white. You build up grays, and that's just kind of like a bonus snippet in there for you. Just throw that out there. It's like, you go up to the house and you get a Kit Kat, and they're like, hey, you know what? Take a Reese's too. So that was your Reese's. We're gonna build up from the black mask color up to a light gray that looks white. Now, here's a funny story. When I was planning this video out, I printed 3 of these. And this is one of the good reasons to have a 3D printer if you plan on, painting things randomly. I printed 3 of these guys. The first one was a test print. I wanted to paint it and see, map out my color scheme, see exactly what I want to do for this video. And I did the robe. The robe came out great. I'm like, yeah, I like that. We're going to do that for the airbrushing one. And then I got to the mask. And since this is a horror themed video, we might as well throw in Wrong Turn 3 in there, because I guarantee that this was an absolute wrong turn. I painted the mask. I'm like, this is going to look great. Okay, cool. Set it down. Came back up to check it the next day after work, and the mask turned purple. No idea what happened. I don't know what I did. But the mask was purple. So we're not following that, because we don't want purple masks. You might want a purple mask. If it's your model. You paint it however you want. I didn't want purple mask for what I was doing. But that one I'm keeping. Now, next, we're going to come in with Titan Buff from Golden Acrylics. This, I probably said it before, is one of my favorite golden acrylic paints. Mainly because it is a absolute positive replacement for GW's Wraithbone. It works the same way with contrast paints. And you get more for the money. You can't beat that. For hobbyists, it's always good to find things that you can use that are cheaper or that benefit you and it doesn't hurt your pocket. And that's one of them. The other thing that I was excited to use is Pro Acryl's basing textures. I'm using a brown earth, which is the only one I got so far. I plan on getting more. And I'm going to use that to base these guys. And I will say, no, I'm not sponsored by them. This is just something I went out on a whim and was like, hey, you know what? Let's buy it. And then I was like, hey, you know what? We're going to use this on this ghost face guy, just to kind of give him some nice texture down there. And honestly, I really like it. It's easy to use, dries real nice, dry brushes real nice. It's a fantastic basing paint. Fantastic texture paint. So I would definitely recommend picking some up if you guys want. Now, a day went by. The texture paint is nice and dry. Should be nice and dry. We're going to lay a little bit of light brown on the paper. And I got lazy here, okay? 100% lazy. I didn't want to bring out anything, no palettes or anything. I just figured I'd use the construction paper I laid down to put the paint on and then start dry brushing. So this is a very dry brush heavy video as well. And basically what we're doing with this light brown is we're coming in and we're dry brushing all the basing texture to kind of help it pop a little bit. Then we're going to come in with some white ink and we're going to mix the light brown with the white ink to create a lighter brown. This time, however, we're going to be doing a very light dry brushing. So the first time around was kind of heavy. This one's a light. We're just trying to catch the highest parts to give it a good contrast between the deep parts and the more raised parts. Now we're going to come in with another golden color, which is like a burnt umber. And we're going to mix it into the mix. And what we're going to do here, yet again, you guessed it, dry brushing. We're going to dry brush in a stippling fashion which is basically just stabbing at the model at the bottom of the cloak or robe. Cloak sounds cool though. If you want to call it a cloak, we'll call it a cloak. The bottom of his robe. I mean cloak. And we're going to create like a dusty kind of dirt thing, like he's been running around for a while and hasn't cleaned it, taken it to the dry cleaners. Because you know, this day and age, dry cleaning has probably gotten pretty expensive. So I would assume he wouldn't be taking it to the dry cleaners anytime soon. So he has a little bit of dust and dirt built up on the bottom of his robes from running around. We're also going to be doing the stippling motion not only with the dark brown, but with the lighter brown too, to give it different types of color texture. This way it's not all just dirty brown, it's a mix of different browns to kind of give an illusion of different styles of dirt, I guess. We'll go with that. I like that. It sounds smart. With your basing, it's always good to have basing materials like your texture paints, which help, but also with these grass tough packs. They are great. You can get them all over the place from multiple different companies. You can get grass tough packs that are flowers or hedges. It's nuts, but they really help your basing pop. So I recommend any chance you get, you don't have to put a lot on there, just one or two, and that'll definitely take your basing to a whole new level. So I put a few on here, make it look good. Now this was the fun part. So we have a serial killer, right? Or we have two serial killers. And serial killers tend to do serial killing, right? So what better thing to do than take some glistening blood, put it on a brush, and flick it at the model. If you want to get your models to a gory advantage, make them a little blood shattered, what better way than putting some blood type paint on your brush and flicking it at your model to create blood splatter? Because it's completely random, it'll never be the same, and it just looks phenomenal. So here you have it. You have both of them. Blood splattered, robes painted, faces painted. So all we have left now is to paint the rim of the model. I would always recommend painting your rims in black. Black rims help everything else pop more. That's just my personal recommendation, and I always do it. And side note, because I didn't show it, the knives were also painted with grays and a little bit of blood. Other than that, nothing special there. I just used the same gray colors to make it more knifey. That's about it. Well, that concludes this year's Halloween special. What better way to celebrate Halloween than to paint a horror movie icon like Ghostface from the Scream series? Bringing him to life with paint was a lot of fun. Definitely a little bit of a break from the norm, with the whole Games Workshop paint and Nurgle stuff, which I love Nurgle, don't get me wrong. But this was a lot of fun. I want to say a special shout out to the creator of this STL file. They did an amazing job with the sculpt, and if you want, I listed them in the end credits. So you can go over to Cloaks 3D, you can search them up, and you can find the file and print it for yourself. It's an amazing file. So, thank you. Now with that being said, it's that time. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. From my family to yours, happy Halloween. Enjoy the giveaway. Until next time, I'll see you at the hobby desk.